Welcome back. A group of Nigerians under the umbrella Nigerian Lives Matter have staged a protest march to Nigeria's High Commission in Pretoria, South Africa. Free and fair elections, good governance, security for all Nigerians in Nigeria and South Africa, as well as economic transformation are just some of the issues contained in the memorandum of demands the marchers presented to the officials at the mission. The group was received by the Acting High Commissioner, Mr. Umar Bako, as well as a number of top officers of the Nigerian High Commission.
Good governance is very, very important. And we also notice that there's been a lot of issues that we're supposed to have gone over for many years that are still repeating itself in the area of insecurity. So the reason we are many here today is because the people here feels it's very important for the government to know that we still need more love. We still need the extension of good governance.
They've talked about good governance, rule of law, fair and fair elections that we're expecting on the 16th of this month, and also the inscriptions on the banners. My response to that is that the fact that they came here and they were received and listened to shows that the government of today, the government of the day, is committed to good governance and the rule of law. We've also told them that their concerns are our concerns, their pains are our pains as we reside in the Republic of South Africa. We've been engaging South African government on every issue that concern their welfare, and also to ensure that they are treated as fair as necessary.
The United Nations says South Sudan stands a real chance of moving forward if the force behind the South Sudanese peace process can be maintained. Special Rep for South Sudan, David Shara, said the September peace agreement reached between parties of the conflict resulted in a number of positive developments. He added that opposition members are in Juba taking part in the peace process, with meetings being organized by the UN mission across the country.
It's important that we speak as one voice. We get in behind the peace process. There's only one peace process in town, it's this one. And that we are able, we focus on trying to maintain that momentum and move the process forward. If we can do that, then I think South Sudan stands a real chance of moving forward. If I look back 4 months ago or 5 months ago, I would have said the chances of being where we are today was unlikely, and we're here. And what I'd like to be able to think that in 5 months from now, we will be at a better and different place than we are now, along a positive road. Now, there are some tricky issues still to be resolved, and no peace agreement is ever perfect, but it's an agreement that is there that we feel offers the best chance in a long while for moving South Sudan in the right direction. So while we are very mindful of the problems that we might experience, we are cautiously optimistic that both sides are committed to going down that path, and if that happens, then it'll make an enormous change to South Sudan.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has allocated $2 million to support critical Ebola prevention activities in South Sudan. Spokesperson Stefan Dujarric told journalists that the UN's Central Emergency Response Fund contribution is aimed at protecting the people in high-risk areas of South Sudan as the outbreak continues in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. The World Health Organization reports that although no cases have been confirmed in South Sudan, the country is at very high risk due to its closeness to the DRC.
The deadly disease.
Humanitarian colleagues report that the UN Central Emergency Response Fund has allocated $2 million to support critical Ebola preparedness activities to protect an estimated 440,000 people in high-risk areas of South Sudan as the outbreak continues in neighboring Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Hundreds of Ethiopians are being brought home from Yemen, where they were stranded after the security situation there kept them from making their way to Saudi Arabia and other wealthy Gulf Arab states. Many migrants from desperately poor Horn of Africa countries risk the dangerous journey through Yemen in the hope of finding work abroad.
After facing conflict in Yemen, former Ethiopian migrants are returning back home to rebuild their lives in the country. Every year, many migrants leave for Yemen, most of whom are ferried from Djibouti. Many are thought to be heading for richer parts of the Arabian Gulf rather than stopping in Yemen, which has been devastated by a civil war and an economic collapse that has pushed more than 8 million people to the brink of famine. Jamal Ahmed was a trader before he left for Yemen in 2015 with an aim to eventually get to Saudi Arabia.
The traffickers dropped us off the moment they got to the tarmac road. While we were traveling on the road towards the Saudi border, the Arabs opened fire on us. We were taken to hospital by Good Samaritans. We suffered a lot.
Through a voluntary program run by the International Organization for Migration, IOM, stranded migrants have found a chance to return home instead. Over 800 migrants returned home last year. The returnees were airlifted or transported to Ethiopia by boat. The organization plans to assist more than 3,000 migrants with repatriation services this year. Malambo Munga is the IOM program coordinator for migration management in Ethiopia.
In 2018 alone, our transit center assisted over 10,000 Ethiopian returnees from various migratory routes. From Yemen alone, the number was almost 800, and the rest of the migrants that came through the transit center in 2018 came from countries along the southern route, but predominantly these were migrants from the Middle East.
Returnees are provided with temporary accommodation at a transit center, meals and non-food items, onward transportation assistance, and psychosocial support. They also have access to medical care and cash grants, while minors are reunited with their families in the country.
Have you ever imagined a world without coffee? That's the feeling of coffee lovers in Egypt right now as climate change puts wild coffee species at risk. Coffee lovers and industrialists in Egypt show increasing anxiety and disbelief over the possible disappearance of what they call an essential part of their day.
2 weeks after UK scientists warned that more than half of the world's wild coffee species are at risk of extinction, Egyptian lovers of the precious bean say they simply can't picture a world without it. Research published by experts at Britain's Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew found that current conservation measures for wild coffee species are not enough to protect their long-term future. In Egypt, home to 100 million people, coffee lovers and coffee shop owners reacted in disbelief over the possible disappearance of an essential part of their day.
The idea of coffee beans going extinct is simply impossible. Many people can't live without coffee, so no. If what you are saying is true, then there should be something they would do. Something else will be invented as a substitute for coffee. We can't live without coffee beans, or at least 70 or 80% of us.
A report issued by Cairo's Chamber of Commerce said that Egyptians consumed 45,000 tons of coffee in 2018 compared to 40,000 in the previous year. The 2018 report also revealed that demand for coffee witnessed a 30% increase after the fasting month of Ramadan.
Coffee beans are a form of agriculture. A plant like cucumbers, tomatoes, fruits. Sometimes there's flooding, destroying agriculture, which affects supply and demand, leading to an increase in prices.
Scientists said targeted action is urgently needed in specific tropical countries, particularly in Africa and in forested areas which are being hit hard by climate change.
I did some research to be sure and realized that yes, climate change might lead to extinction of coffee. So, if that happens, I wish I won't be around to see it. I simply cannot live without coffee.
Commercial coffee Arabica is one of the species at risk of extinction, one of the most widespread blends in Cairo.
To all the coffee lovers out there, good luck. Thanks for watching the program today. I'm Teniola Shubawale.